30 days.
Ed Blakely has served in different capacities under a succession of presidential administrations, has guided government policy on urban planning, and is a widely cited academic.
Now living in Sydney, Australia.
My name is Sean Britton from 2SER 107.3 in Sydney, and each week Ed and I have a chat about what's the latest news out of the United States, including everything politics, planning and policy, from sea to shining sea.
Get to Syria and such in just
Find us
a
on
minute.
iTunes, Whooshka, Facebook and Twitter at US of Ed.
Mueller investigation, and yet it's been all quiet on
Trump has had a
the
few
Russian
things to say
front.
this week, so we're going to get through them. But first,
Well, I think
We're now
several things are going on.
701
Behind the
days
scenes,
into the Trump
apparently
presidency.
there's some issues.
And we want to begin by
with
recapping
respect
just
to
1 week
the Mueller
in this
investigation
administration.
itself,
1 week.
and people trying to
Apparently,
wash
an
it
administration
using,
unraveling from
various
within.
kinds of devices,
As probes
especially,
expanded into more of the president's
testing
political business and
ability
foreign
to
ties
issue
on Friday, a
subpoenas.
week ago today.
So there's
His
a
search
test
for
on
a new
there.
chief of staff
The
failed,
other thing is the
resulting in
Cohen
an
matter
interim pick,
has raised a lot
one
of
who we
other
found out
sticky
had called
issues.
Trump a,
Remember,
quote,
Cohen
terrible
matter
human
is
being
not
right
a
before
Mueller
the
issue.
2016 election.
But now it's boomerang
On
back
Saturday,
to
the
Mueller.
Secretary of Interior
So Cohen's
abruptly
brought up things
resigned,
like
hoping
the
to ward
meeting,
off investigations from the newly
like the
empowered
fact that
House
there's some
Democrats.
things going on in
That
the
was followed by the
campaign,
president
issues with
lashing out on
Russians he
Twitter,
knows of
calling his
and the
former
like.
attorney a
And
rat,
so they've got to put that
and once
together
again
before
bashing the FBI.
doesn't have legs.
On Monday, the markets
They know who's
continued
gonna
their
carry that
slide
ball.
into the worst
I think they're
December
gonna
since
come
the
up with some
Great
pretty
Depression.
tough
The Senate
stuff very
Intelligence
soon.
Committee reported that
And this
social
is
media
real trouble
posts
for the
by
president,
Russians aimed at
because
helping
the
Trump
Democrats will
continued
pick this up
into his
and pick it
administration, this
apart.
time
So
attacking
even if
Robert
he
Mueller.
just issues a report,
Monday also saw indictments in a
Democrats
Turkey
gonna
scheme
use it
involving former
as
National Security
bullets,
Advisor Michael
howitzer
Flynn,
bullets.
who on Tuesday
And they're gonna be
was
lodging
accused
them
by a
in
judge
hell.
of selling
How
out
is he
his
gonna survive this?
country
Who
and warned to
knows? When
cooperate
he's got a
with a
temporary
lot more with the special
leader
counsel
of
or
his own
face
office.
jail time. Then
So
on
the person
Wednesday,
leading
and
the
we're
office
just
is
at
also
Wednesday,
the guy who's
President Trump
leading-
tweeted seemingly
Let's
out
call
of the
it
blue his
the
order for a
deficit
full
division,
withdrawal from
the
Syria,
Office of
taking the
Budget
Pentagon by
Management,
surprise,
which is
and
crazy.
infuriating Republicans
I'd
on
never
Capitol
worked in that
Hill.
office, but I've been
Yesterday,
in it.
Trump
And it's
blew
like
up a deal
going
to fund the
into,
government
remember
over
those old movies where
conservative
papers
criticism
flying
on
in
a
every
border
direction
wall.
and
that
people are
brings
trying to
us the
catch it and put it
Secretary
on their
of Defense
desk.
resigning
That's what
in
the office
protest of the
OMB
president's
looks like.
worldview.
And they
the
got a lot of
first
people
time
hanging going
that
on
has
there.
ever happened.
big news this week,
It was
Syria,
an
and Trump has
incredible
announced
week.
via
The Pentagon
tweets
spokesman
ISIS
says
is
Secretary
defeated,
Mattis visited the
and
White House
the
on
US will be
Thursday
pulling its
afternoon,
2,000
met
troops
with
out
President
of Syria.
Trump and
This has been
hand-delivered
confirmed by the White House,
a
although
letter of
some in the
resignation
Pentagon
dated yesterday.
reportedly
It came
not
as
happy.
the president
First
doubled
thoughts,
down
Ed?
on his Syria withdrawal.
Gee, this is
and
really
reports
interesting
emerged of a
way to
major
run the
pullout
US
from
government.
Afghanistan.
You send out a
the letter
tweet.
includes none of the usual
did he check
thanks
with
and
ISIS?
praise for the president's leadership or
Or
accomplishments,
are they on the caravan?
nor even a salutation
My
at
God.
the end.
This is
Here we go.
perfectly
Quote,
ridiculous.
one core belief
Perfectly
I have always held
Now, those
is that
aren't
our
soldiers,
strength
they're
as a
combat.
nation is
They are
inextricably,
training
inextricably linked to the
They're
strength of
first
our
aid
unique and
technicians, people
comprehensive
providing
system of
vital
alliances
supply
and
line
partnerships.
assistance.
Similarly,
So
I
pulling
believe
them out
we must
really
be
means
resolute
pulling
and
out
unambiguous in our approach
possibility
to those countries
of the
whose
rebels
strategic
having a
interests
chance
are
of
increasingly in
This is a
tension with
favor to the
ours.
Russians.
It is clear
That's all
that
it is.
China and
Another gift to the
Russia, for
Russians.
example,
And we've
want
gone
to
through
shape a
this.
world
Why is
consistent
he
with their
trying
authoritarian
to
model,
cozy up to the
gaining
Russians?
veto authority over other
Follow the
nations'
money.
economic, diplomatic, and
Big
security
win for
decisions
the Russians,
to promote
as you
their own
say,
interests
with
at
this
the
one. This
expense
is
of
one
their
that Putin
neighbors,
really wanted
America,
delivered.
and
That's why.
our allies.
And he's getting it.
That is why we
Thus
must
far,
use all the
he's
tools
delivered nothing to
of
Putin.
American
And
power
Putin's
to
really
provide
upset.
for the common
Upset.
defense.
So he's
My
trying
views
to hang
on
on
treating
here.
allies with
Putin
respect and also
has
being
a couple more
clear-eyed
shoes
about
to
both
drop
malign
around
actors
this
and
financial
strategic
business.
competitors
And
are
when the
strongly
issues
held
come
and
out
informed by
that the money
over
that he
4
got
decades
during
of
the 90s
immersion in these
came
issues.
through
Because you have
Deutsche
the right
Bank
to have a Secretary of
him,
Defense whose views are
directly
better
from the
aligned
Russians.
with yours on these and other
That's gonna be a
subjects.
very big shoe.
I believe it is
And the
right
other
for
one
me
is
to step
his
down
building
from
of
my
that
position.
tower. And already
Mattis
they're
gave an
releasing
end date for his tenure
memos
of February
and emails
28th.
Admiral
saying
Chervitas,
that
your
Trump's
reaction to
people were in
yesterday's
communication with
fortuitous
him on the tower.
events
They've got
and
more.
the
So the
departure
Russians
of
are in the bus
James
and they're
Mattis.
driving it right at Trump.
You know, I've known Jim Mattis
There is a
for
much bigger
decades,
argument
of course,
here whether
and when
America
he was
has
a
this role
colonel,
of world police that they
his
seem to
call
have stepped
sign was
into. A lot of
not
people are saying
Mad
Trump
Dog.
is blowing
His
up
actual
American
call
Middle East
sign was
policy with this
chaos,
particular move,
which stands
leaving
for
some
Colonel
allies, like
has
the
an
Kurdish
outstanding
fighters,
solution. It was
swinging
an
the wind
affectionate
on this kind
term
of thing.
for
Although
a full
ISIS, you would
colonel
have to
who
say, it
flew
is,
around the
in the
battlefield
sense
and
of a
inflicted
traditional
chaos
military
on his
campaign,
opponents.
very, very
That's
weak.
a pretty
It
appropriate
is
word for
holding onto a
today.
skerrick
And
of
I
land
think
right
the
now.
thing to
People are
key in
concerned
on
about a
here
bounce
is
back,
that
but
letter.
certainly militarily,
The three salient
ISIS
points are
is very, very close to
allies,
defeat, if not
partners, and
defeated.
friends, this
When do you
network
roll
that
out
our
the
country
mission
enjoys,
accomplished?
Let's
that he
use your
saw
analogy
being taken
here.
apart.
When there's a house fire,
Number two is
do you
the
notice the fire
rise of
department stations
strategic
a person there
competitors,
for the next
Russia,
24 hours
China,
to make sure
and in
no other fire
particular the way we're
starts?
essentially
thing's true with the
ceding the
military.
Middle East to Russia.
When the other
deep,
guys
deep
are
concern
running
to Jim.
and they
And
look
thirdly,
like they're near
not
defeat,
staying
you put some of your
firm,
troops
going
real
after
close to them
terror, the malign
and let them
actors
surrender.
piece. So allies,
So
partners, friends,
this is the wrong time
strategic
to do that.
competitors,
The right time to
and
do
going
it might
after
be
the
next
terrorists,
year
the last
or the
one
year
being the
after,
pullout of Syria
when the enemy
and
is
the
in total
supposedly
disarray,
planned pullout
or
of
they've
Afghanistan.
capitulated
Those ought to
entirely.
worry us
Not now.
deeply,
And the
because
reason it's
that's
being
how
done
we're going
now
to see the
is
return
because
of global
the Russians
terrorism,
have asked
leaving
him to
that
do this.
zone open.
The Russians
Mattis
don't like
saw
ISIS
all of
either.
that. I think he
But their
wanted to
worry
stay,
is
but he realized,
the
as we talked about
rebels
yesterday on the program,
are
Joe and Mika,
gaining strength
that
again.
to stay
And the
any
Syrian
longer,
army
he would have
is
gone
in
from being a
disarray.
guardrail to really being part
There's
of
also
this.
the
to being
possibility
an
this is
enabler.
happening
And
this
he
week,
had to
right before
make that
Christmas, as
choice.
yet
It was a terrible
another
choice
distraction
for James
by our
Mattis.
president,
I feel for
infamous
him with all my
for
heart.
throwing out
But
grenades,
he made the
throwing
right
out whatever
choice,
he
in my
thinks will
view.
stick. It's been another horror week for him,
Nick
realistically.
Burns,
We've had the
something like
Michael
this
Flynn
hasn't happened
sentencing
in
postponed.
over
He's got
40
another
years. It
90
happens
days.
very rarely
And the
that
suggestion is,
you have
on
a
that 90
cabinet
days, he better
official,
sing for supper.
departing an
and the
administration
Cohen
in
business that you haven't
protest,
mentioned.
but
Yeah.
it certainly
Wars
happened
coming out
yesterday
of
with
the
Jim
Cohen
Mattis. The language
and
was
his own
searing,
foundation,
and anybody that's been
which was a
covering the
slush
news
fund.
over the past 2 years
And so
or watching the news
he
couldn't
not only
have
is
missed
he in trouble, his whole family's in trouble. When you go through the cascade of things.
Mattis's
Now, who
reference to
told
Russia,
Flynn what
and that
to
he
do?
sees Russia as an enemy,
Jared Kushner.
and he's disappointed in the fact that
The foundation
Donald Trump doesn't
run
understand
by
that.
his second son, and then his
Well,
first
you're right,
son.
Joe.
with the
This was a
meeting on
letter
June
of
16th.
protest. And it was
So
also a letter of
he is
principle.
surrounded
And Secretary
now
Mattis is reminding
with
the
all
president,
this
but also
stuff,
reminding all
and
of
he
us
doesn't know where to turn.
of what's really
So he's
important
looking,
for the
maybe
United
the
States
Russians will let
overseas,
me
that
out.
we have to
Anybody will
be
let me
committed
out.
to our allies.
He has
And
no policy
President Trump,
agenda.
of course, is
It
the
is
weakest
escape
American
from
president
reality.
to ever lead the
I
NATO
did want
alliance,
to touch
and he's
more
made
on
the
the
EU into a
foundation
competitor.
issue, because the
And Mattis
Donald
also
J.
said
Trump
that
Foundation
Russia and
is being
China are
dissolved
our adversaries,
after the
and we have to
lawsuit
stand
found
up to
it was
them,
guilty
and we
of
have to
a
have
shocking
strong and
pattern
consistent
of
policies.
illegality,
And
a
President
charity
Trump
that did
has been the
no
weakest
charitable
American
works and
president.
was instead just a piggy bank
And
for
trying to
Trump and
oppose
his
Vladimir
eldest
Putin.
children.
He's cozied up
For
to
any
Putin.
other modern
This is gonna
presidents,
hurt the
Ed,
United
this would
States
be a
because
scandal
Jim
of
Mattis was the
jaw-dropping
strongest member of the cabinet.
Yeah, but
the
how many
most
scandals do we
experienced
need
member
here?
of the cabinet, had the most
And
credibility
it
with the
is
rest of the
truly
world,
flagrant.
the person that
But here we
people
have a
felt could
situation
restrain this
where the president,
feckless and cynical
even if
president.
he survived
and so
another
his
term,
absence after February 28th
when he
is
got
gonna
out,
hurt our country.
would be
He's
facing
seen
prison.
already the damage he's
So,
done in announcing the pullout
he
from
has
Syria, a
two
gift to
courses of
Putin and
action.
the Iranians and
One of them
Hezbollah.
is
And now this
ask for
damage to
leniency
Afghanistan, to our policy,
and
where
try to
he's
get this
cut
down,
the legs
or
out
the other is
from
resign
Zalmalizad, our
and ask
negotiator,
that he be
trying
pardoned
to get the
for all these
Taliban
crimes and the
to
members of his family. I don't
compromise
think he
with
has
us.
any
Why would they
When
compromise
the judge
with us when they
in
know
the
we're going to be
Flynn case
leaving
in
both
postponing
in
the
Afghanistan
sentencing,
and
I
Syria?
think the
So
words
a
were
very
sold out his
consequential loss
country.
for us.
I feel like that's
Richard
going to be a
Haas,
sign that's going to be hanging around the necks of
ambassador
a
used
few
the term
in the
feckless
White House right now.
That's
to
right.
To
That's right.
describe Donald
I
Trump.
wonder
It's ironic
what
that
the
a man who
current,
campaigned on strength
White House
has in fact
manager is gonna have to
become
say.
the most feckless
Kelly
and weak
doesn't seem pleased
president
on his exit.
since the
So I think Kelly may be singing
World
as
War
well.
II.
Let's talk about Mick Mulvaney, actually, because you mentioned him a little
He's
bit
pulling out
before. He's going to be
of
acting
Syria.
chief
He's
of
ceding
staff,
it to the
despite the
Iranians,
fact
ISIS, and
in the
Russia.
past he's referred
He's
to Trump as a
pulling out
terrible
of
human being
Afghanistan.
and
He's,
said that he would be
his
disqualified from
ambassador said
taking
he's
office in
basically just blown
an
up our
ordinary
negotiations
universe.
with the Taliban to
You
try
can
to
say
negotiate
a lot about
peace.
the modern Republican
And
Party,
he sent
Ed,
a
but
message of
you've
weakness
got to
across the
compliment
globe,
them
so
on
much
their
so that now
flexibleness,
the
I would
North
say.
Koreans are saying
Yeah, Mulvaney's very
that they're
flexible.
going to back
Though
away from
Mulvaney's
any
taken over any job that's
general
available.
deal deals
I
that
think
they
he's
had
still
made
running
with
the
this
Small Business
White House before.
Administration.
What is next?
Mulvaney
Yeah,
is a person.
It's
who
often
loves
said
to
that
throw
truth is
power.
the first casualty in
And this
war.
is
Well,
just
the
another
first
piece of
casualty
cake
of the
for
Trump
him.
foreign policy is America's
I
reputation,
suspect
Joe.
he'll be there as
And
long
any
as he has to
reputation
be.
we had for
But he's absolutely the
dependability,
wrong
for
person to have
reliability
there
has
if you're
been
gonna run for
shredded.
president.
What we're doing to
Because
the
he
Kurds
cannot
will
do
be
an internal job and an
case
external
one.
job at the same
More
time.
broadly,
So I think we're gonna have
Afghanistan
another
maybe
person
too.
in
We've
this
already
trial.
had the problems
So by
with
the time
our
we learn to
closest
spell
allies in
Albania,
Europe.
he'll be
But
gone.
I think when others look at us,
Just
including
speaking of
the North
which,
Koreans,
Paul Ryan,
I
also
wouldn't be
a
shocked
great
if in the next couple
mental
days we
gymnast
saw a
of
North
the
Korean
Trump
proposal
era,
that would link
also on his
some
way out
promise
this week.
on getting rid of some of their
and
nuclear
Paul
weapons or
Ryan, the guy who
missiles
said
to
he
massive
would lessen
reductions
the
in the
deficit,
American troop presence
he
in
would pull
South
back on
Korea.
all these
This is all,
programs,
and Donald Trump, for
make
all I know, might
America
be tempted
strong
by it. He's
again
always
by
seen the
having a
costs and
strong
burdens
balance sheet.
of American
Boy, does
leadership
he
as
look like
outweighing
a
the benefits. So on one level,
think
this
that,
is totally
his
consistent
legacy
with what I
is
think is a
something,
seriously
that's
flawed
really
and
gonna haunt
misguided
him.
worldview.
He's a young man,
and he doesn't seem
and
to
he
understand
still has
that
to
when
wear
bad
this
things
tax
happen
cut,
in the world,
he has to wear
his
this
goal of
mounting
making
deficit,
America great
he has
again
to wear the fact
could be
that he
literally
attacked
fatally
Obamacare.
compromised. He
And
talked
by the
about
way, Obamacare is down
giving up. We've defeated the terrorists.
And
terrorists
the
are not defeated.
Republicans
There's no
have
battleship
not come to
Missouri
save it.
signing
And he's gonna have to
ceremony in the
wear
war
that.
against ISIS
So,
or anybody else. They will
he's going out
reconstitute.
with his head
And last
down
time they came
rather
after
than
us
his head up.
from Afghanistan.
It's too bad.
Could be
I think
Afghanistan again.
there
Could be
were
Syria. Could be
times
25 other places.
before
So
Trump,
this is an
he looked
ongoing
like
process, and
a decent human being.
essentially he wants to opt
Well, I guess
out.
make a wish, Ed,
Again, in
because
this
we've seen
misguided
a
idea that we
rising
can
star
be
become a
safe
falling
here at
star
home.
very quickly
And I
over
think
the
we
last
are
couple of
going to
years.
pay the
That's
price
true.
for this.
And what other
for
rising stars
basically
are
for
there?
years to come. This has now become
I think the
a
Democrats
truly
got to 40.
consequential presidency, but not in the way
So
any of us
now
want to
it
see.
looks like
John
there is
Howman,
no chance
Republicans have had a tough time. We've been
anything.
tough on
Now, people
Republicans
say,
for not
the
standing up to
Republicans
Trump,
have
and
the Senate,
I have to remind
but
myself of the
who's in the
important
Senate?
assumption that everybody
They
is doing
still
their
have those
best
people,
all the time,
who are critical
and
of the
they have
president
been.
in the Senate.
But could
And
this
you
be a
got more of
turning
them.
point in their relationship with Trump? Because
the guys
losing
who were
Mattis is
elected on their
losing
own were
a significant
Republicans,
dose
are
of
not coming the president's way.
sanity
And a
in the
few
White
people
House.
are
Could
gonna
this
be
be an
jumping
inflection
ship
point
very soon.
with the Republicans
So the
as it
Senate
pertains to
looks
this
weaker.
president?
I think it could be, and I think it's one of a.
And just speaking of that makeup, government shutdown seems to be averted this week. Trump backing down after claimed he'd be proud to take on will take the government down if he didn't get funding for his wall. There has been another short-term spending bill passed again without funding
for a lot of Senate Republicans who had looked at the first 2 years and made certain calculations about what the price would be to part with Trump. They now recognize that the calculus is changing and that there is less cost to leaving him, parting ways with him, than there is to sticking with him. That's an important thing. And then you have these other sequential things that have been happening. Obviously, on the legal front, the notion that Mueller's investigation may be coming to a climax and that Trump is vulnerable on multiple fronts, along with his family. And now you have this resignation, historic in the way that Joe suggested, that I think for a lot of Republicans who in the Senate who looked at Mattis as the guardrail, as the, I hate the phrase adult in the room, I'm not going to use it, but because I think it kind of diminishes others who, by not calling them adults, it makes it seem as though they should be responsible for their actions, but certainly a mature guiding force, someone who a lot of people have a lot of faith in. There's a lot of Republicans now who are scared at what they're seeing, and I think the phrase you used, last thing I'll say, the phrase you used at the top, Mika, when you said unraveling, I think that is a sense that a lot of people have right now about the presidency, and even people who would like to see, who think it would be best for the country if Donald Trump not be president, not reach the end of his term. I think people are now going to start to get to grips with the notion that the unraveling of a presidency is a really
just
ugly
finally,
thing.
Ed, a bit of a sad one actually. Levels of gun deaths in the United States are at their highest levels.
We're starting to see it, I think, right now. And
this number coming
people
from
are going to have to
2017,
brace
nearly
themselves because this is just the start of the destabilization and the ugliness.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe.
Well,
we had a podcast.
Yeah, a podcast just a couple of months ago discussing these ones. Those numbers really hammer home that this isn't a problem that just exists in a vacuum. This is a problem that is still ramping up.
Well, let's go back to the gun law that was passed after Reagan was shot. The Brady Bill, it's called. When those automatic weapons were not for sale, except for limited people, gun deaths plummeted. They came back when that bill reached its sunset clause, and the Republicans would not renew it. So kind of your chickens come to roost. Now the Republicans have to wear this. I would anticipate this will be a big deal in the next presidential campaign, and the Brady bill will come back. What we have to do is get rid of those automatic weapons. The United States is not going to be a place where you get rid of all weapons, but I think you can get rid of the automatic weapons. And this business about mental health, all Americans must be crazy if you're getting 60, 70,000 people a year killed. This is not mental health. This is an issue where you have people have something they cannot handle. Automatic weapons were never for this purpose. I haven't heard of anybody being killed on this scale anywhere else by guns.
US of Ed is produced in the studios of 2SER 107.3 in Sydney. Help support the work we do by going to 2ser.com/support. Ed and I will be back next week to talk the latest in US news and politics before the new year. Find us on iTunes and Whooshka to stay up to date, and show us some love on Facebook and Twitter
the president spent much of his time ahead of the midterms stoking fears of migrants and asylum seekers, tweeting repeatedly about this caravan from Central America, calling it an invasion, invoking it in rallies from Florida to Montana.
An invasion. And today, the president moved to block some asylum seekers from the country by proclamation. He issued an order stating, quote, "The entry of any alien between the United States and Mexico is hereby suspended and limited, exempting anyone who, quote, enters the United States at a port of entry and properly presents for inspection." Until now, a person could claim asylum regardless of their immigration status.
Right. It's two different things. Remember, immigration and asylum are two different things. You could have been in the country for any reason and claimed asylum. Basically, this is saying that you've got to go to a border point or an entry point into the United States in order to do that.
And this is the massive problem that the president thinks we should fear.
Yeah. It's just not. We have a lot of other problems in this country.
In the last 2 weeks,
But that's...
synagogue shooting, 11 people. A bar in California, 12 people. Someone tried to shoot up a black church, and instead they shot 2 people at a Kroger.
Pipe
and
bombs.
Someone was sending pipe bombs.
But let's talk about what this is.
You can be afraid of those things.
Let's talk about this this order that the president has put into place. Joining us now is NBC News Justice correspondent Pete Williams. Pete, good to see you. The new restrictions take effect just after midnight tonight.
1 minute after midnight,
What's
right.
the practical effect of this?
The practical effect is that anybody who from that point on tries to claim asylum, if they cross into the border illegally, they don't come through a regular port of entry, they won't be able to make that asylum claim. They'll be apprehended, detained, and immediately sent back. So the argument here is that the president has the authority to do this under broad authority that he has under federal law to restrict immigration. And what the government claims here is that it's intended to reduce this so-called catch and release problem where people claim asylum, they're given a date, they are released, and they never show up for their asylum hearings. That's the government's argument here, that number one, most people who claim asylum don't come back to follow through, and those who do come back, most of them are denied asylum. So they say the asylum process is being abused. Now, there are obviously going to be legal challenges here, and there are a couple of things to consider. First of all, there is a separate provision in federal law that says anyone should be able to claim asylum no matter what their legal status. In other words, whether they came in at a border of entry point or not. And secondly, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees says the United States has a treaty obligation to respect and consider asylum claims no matter where they're made inside the country, and they claim basically that this new policy violates the treaty. So I think it's easy to say that you're going to see legal challenges. ACLU has already said they believe this is illegal. The government says they believe they have the power and that they'll assert the same authority that ultimately, in a changed form, did succeed on the travel ban in the Supreme Court.
Right.
How does this impact the caravan? The caravan coming from Central America. Is their plan to enter the country illegally or go to a point of entry?
Well, I'm sure that there are as many plans among the caravan people as there are people, but what this means is that if they want to claim asylum, they're going to have to come through the port of entry. Now, of course, the port of entry points are often, there's a terrible backlog.
Yep.
The government does say that they're going to surge additional resources to these ports of entry, but there's still going to be a backlog, there's still going to be a line. And what the government has said in the past is, and by the way, under previous administrations too, that I'm sorry, we can't handle you all, come back tomorrow or come back the next day. And of course, those people have no place to stay, so that is a problem. But clearly, the intention here is to try to send the message that you can't just sneak into the country and get asylum. You're going to have to come through the border checkpoints. And the whole point of here is to try to deter immigration. Illegal or illegal.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.